Some young people risk their lives, regardless of the danger and the warnings that something bad could happen to them. They have the bad decision to walk on a lake that is frozen. They do not care that from afar a man warned them to get out of there, because it's dangerous to be on the lake and he's going to call the police. But there is no turning back, only a miracle can save him. This Christian summary is based on a real-life story better known as An Unbreakable Love or Breakthrough. We start the film with the head of the family named Joyce. She looks for her son John for breakfast. The mother serves him the food, although he acts disobedient and despises the food and prefers to give it to the puppy, but she notices and she serves the food again with the love and patience of a mother who has God in her life. They say a family prayer and finish eating. They live in a small town where everyone knows each other and is quite close. They go to school. In the car it is seen that Joyce tries to get the attention of John, who is a rather arrogant boy, and who disrespects his mother. At a church meeting, Joyce reveals that she is John's adoptive mother and says that this is what has always kept them apart. In real life John is called Marcel Ruiz and he is also adopted. Joyce never loses faith and continues trying to win her affection. At that moment the pastor arrives, who interrupts and asks them to end the meeting, since he will have an important meeting. The pastor is not well received in the congregation since he has attitudes strong. We see John training, but due to a foul that they do in the game, John is filled with anger and starts a fight. His teacher stops them and warns him that for doing poorly in other school subjects, he will be punished and he will remain on the bench in the following games. The next day we meet at school. John, to earn points and try to remain as captain, presents his family tree homework where he reveals that he is from Guatemala and that his real mother and his father did not want him, and he tells them that he is adopted. We return to the church where we see everyone happy, except Joyce, who doesn't like the type of music and doesn't like Pastor Jason's preaching. At the end of the service the pastor manages to get John to accept the invitation to join the youth group, and of course his mother is amazed at how the pastor was able to achieve that. In the basketball game we see John scoring the last basket to win. Arrogantly he waited until the last second to be the one who scored. At the end of the game John says goodbye to his mother Joyce and her father Brian, who asks him to please write to his mother, and not to be silly since he is going to spend the weekend with his friends. The young people wake up the next day with the idea of going to play in the snow. Then they approach a lake that is frozen due to the temperature. They are happy walking on the lake without measuring the danger. At this moment, a man warns them of the danger and yells at them that he is going to call the police if they don't get out of there. But disobedience will cost him dearly. The layer of ice does not support the weight and it breaks and they all fall. Now they are submerged in the completely frozen lake. They all try go out, but John is accidentally kicked in the head and this causes him to lose consciousness and sink quickly. The man who had warned them sees them and quickly calls the fire brigade. The fire brigade immediately goes to the scene of the accident. First the policemen arrived, but due to the dangerous layer of ice that covers the water, it is difficult for them to help them. At that moment the rescue team appears and for 15 minutes John was underwater and without knowing the whereabouts of his body. Suddenly, when the group of firefighters were giving up, one of them, and the least believer in God, he hears a voice that tells him to come back, and after looking again he finds John. They begin to give him first aid, but he has no vital signs. They quickly go to the hospital and at the same time Joyce and Brian are informed of what happened. At the hospital the doctors do the impossible to revive John, tries again and again, and they give up. Then the doctor goes to Joyce and informs her of her son's poor condition and tells her that come and say goodbye to John. But she does not. She does not accept the news because she has faith in God. After falling into despair and crying for a long time, she goes to her only savior. Yes, the one we always look for when we are in big trouble. After a loud cry of pain and pray to God for John, we begin to see the beginning of a miracle where John begins to have vital signs. As the hospital does not have the necessary equipment, John is transferred and is now treated by Dr. Garrett, who is an expert, and even so he doesn't give them much hope since the first thing he tells them is, call your relatives to say goodbye to John. At the hospital some friends arrive including the pastor, the same pastor Joyce doesn't get along with, but he is the only one who, together with Joyce, still has faith. 18 hours after the accident, Joyce wakes up and sees Pastor Jason, who is the only one left looking after John. Everyone has lost faith, including Brian, who is John's father, looks tired and desperate. Joyce had gone to rest, and when she returned she entered the room and grabbed John's hand, and when she spoke to him she was surprised that John squeezed his mother Joyce's hand in response. she happily together with the pastor began to ask them questions. They call Dr. Garrett, who quickly weakens their joy, as he tells them it may be a reflex. In the waiting room there are several of John's friends who have come to encourage the family. His colleagues have created a page to ask for John's life. 42 hours after the accident, her mother suffered a diabetic coma and ordered her to rest for at least 5 hours. The doctor informs them that John has gotten worse and that the medicine is damaging her body, so Joyce orders him to remove all the medicines and all the devices that have kept him alive. On television, Father Jason calls everyone to intercede in prayer for John because he is going to wake up from all the medicines that had been administered to him. This news quickly creates an impact in that small town, who gather outside the hospital to sing to God and pray for John's recovery. In the early morning everyone is ready to pull the plug on John and is amazed that he is responding well, breathing without the help of drugs and devices. To everyone's surprise, John wakes up and appears unharmed. After examining him, the doctor cannot believe that he recovered so quickly and accepts that there is no scientific explanation for what happened and accepts the presence of God in this great miracle. Classmates and everyone is very happy. John is released from the hospital and 28 days after the accident he returns to school and finds all the letters that had been left trapped in his locker. He leaves the school and takes a bike and goes to the lake where the accident occurred, where he meets Tommy, who is the fireman who had rescued him, tells him that he does not believe in God, but at the same time he confesses that he thinks it was God who told him to come back for him. Night comes and Pastor Jason welcomes them and takes them to the church and comments that they had never lived anything like what they lived together. John apologizes to his parents and they also thank everyone, from the firefighters, policemen, doctors and everyone present. The microphone captures Joyce giving the last thank you speech. In the last scene we return to the school in a basketball game where we see John play again unscathed from the accident, this time also winning, but with God in his heart. I hope you liked this video and that it has been a great learning experience, since without God we are nothing and only He is capable of doing what is impossible for man. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you activate the bell it will always notify you when upload a new video that feeds our soul. Until next time.